guys, welcome to my house and to my kitchen. My name's Heidi and this is
Justin.
You might have recognized him. He's one of the front desk people. We also coordinated today. We're both wearing green. But today we're going to be making a recipe. So it is a black bean enchilada bake, and it's going to utilize all of these ingredients that we have in front of us right here. And Justin is going to help me prepare it. All right, let's get cooking.
So before we put our enchilada bake in, we're going to set the oven to 350, like this. Now we'll wait till that happens.
Okay everyone, here are your ingredients. 1 cup of uncooked quinoa, 2 cups of veggie chicken or beef stock, 1 15-ounce can of enchilada sauce, 1 tablespoon of olive oil or any oil substitute, a half cup of red or white onions chopped, 1 bell pepper chopped, 2 cloves of garlic minced, 1 lime, 2 15-ounce cans of black beans, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 cup of chopped cilantro or Italian spices. Now we got these ingredients at our local Stop and Shop, and it ran us just over $20. Alright, let's get back to the prep.
So we're going to start by chopping up our onion. The recipe calls for half of an onion, and I'm going to just walk you through it, how to do it. So you start off, and you first have to peel the onion, and what I like to do is I just like to trim both sides first. And there's a way that you can actually chop an onion so that you don't cry. And then what we start by doing is we make little lines. So in order to save yourself some time with the mincing process, you just cut perpendicular. You can also kind of see that it's starting to come out in. Cut perpendicular and then cut the opposite way. And again, the recipe calls for about a half of an onion, so we're going to take this other part and we're going to get rid of it. And look, no tears in my eyes. I'm totally fine. What we do from here is we chop it all up together, and left hand comes on down, or whatever hand it is that you use, but right hand holds the knife stable. And what we do is we just rotate. So this is how we mince, and we make sure that the knife actually never leaves the cutting board. And you just chop it on up until it's nice and smooth. Next up is the pepper. So I'm going to take you through how to core a pepper off at the top so that we get all the seeds out, and then also slice a pepper. And just like the onion, it's also going to be minced. And the recipe calls for 1 full pepper. But first, before you do anything else, you want to make sure that you rinse off your pepper. Get rid of anything that might be just kind of lingering on the skin. And once that's done, you can place it on your cutting board. And what you do is you take your chef's knife and you just kind of make like little circles and little incisions around the top. And then eventually, once you get there, you're breaking apart the stem from the vegetable itself. So once you make that full apart, it just pops straight on out. You pull it, voila, you get rid of the seeds. So next up from here, what we want to do is you just want to cut the pepper straight down the middle. And then there's a couple ways that you can kind of go about getting rid of the inner part of the pepper. The first part is you can separate it on out. And then from here, so this is where you need to be very careful, because using your chef's knife, you hold the pepper down and you literally just skin along the bottom until the top comes off. Next up, once you take out the inner workings of the pepper, you want to start and you want to mince the pepper. So same thing as what you did with the onion. You line everything up and you just work your way on in. So the last ingredient that we have to prepare is the garlic. So the recipe only calls for 2 cloves of garlic, but I know my family and I know my own taste buds, and I'm going to choose to prep 5 cloves of garlic. So just listen to your taste buds, listen to your senses, do whatever it is that you feel comfortable doing and that you think is going to taste good. I'm going to start by introducing you with the types of knives that we use in order to mince garlic. First is your paring knife. We're going to use our paring knife in order to peel the garlic and expose it, kind of cutting into both ends and pulling off the skin as we go. And then from here, you hold the garlic firmly in your two hands, and then the opposite. Your fourth finger kind of tucks underneath, and then your thumb presses on in. Next up, we're going to transition to our chef's knife, and we're going to mince the garlic. Same thing like what we did with the onions, and same thing what we did with the pepper. Our last ingredient is our garlic. So we hold them all together, and you slowly come on through, making sure that you cut it on up. And then hand comes on top, and you just kind of rock that knife back and forth. So now that we've prepped our veggies, we got our 1/2 onion, we've got our full red pepper all minced up, and then the recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic, but again, I'm a big garlic fan, so I added 5. We move on over. Our main carbohydrate source is your quinoa. Now, a lot of people are very much used to like rice and whatnot, but quinoa actually has about 6 grams of protein per serving, whereas rice only has about 3. So I chose to go with quinoa today. Plus, not to mention, currently right now, a lot of the rice is kind of sold out and hard to find, but quinoa, there's plenty of it. Next up, we also have vegetable stock or vegetable broth. Either one's fine. If you have difficulty finding veggie broth, feel free. You can always substitute with chicken as well, or with beef broth too. And it's 2 cups already measured out. Then we got our enchilada sauce, which is going to be giving it a lot of nice flavor. And then our legumes or our beans. So this is a great option because there's actually no animal products added to this. This is just our primary source of protein is actually coming from beans. So you're going to meet all of your protein needs based off your legumes. And then, of course, our lime.
All right, so first we're going to get our stove to a medium heat. We're going to add our vegetable stock here, as well as our quinoa. And once that gets to a simmer, we will add the rest of the ingredients. Alright, so as you can see here, we have our quinoa and stock on the stove, starting to heat up. We're going to keep this on here for about 25 minutes, stirring it as well. And once you see the quinoa start to absorb more of the stock and it gets light and fluffier, that's when you know you're about done.
So while the quinoa is cooking and Justin's taking very good care of it, we're going to start by sauteing our vegetables together. And we start by adding in some oil, just enough to kind of like make sure that the pan is well coated. And then we always start off with our onions. Onions do a great job of absorbing flavor and then also intensifying flavor as well too. So we always want to make sure that we add those onions in and we cook them before we add any other ingredients until they're about translucent, so almost yellowy see-through. So we make sure that that's all set up and ready to go. We coat our pan and our onions together. Make sure that everything is evenly spaced out. And let it start to cook. So here, if you can kind of see, once I stop stirring, it starts to bubble a little bit. This is the simmer that we're looking for. This is the heat that we need in order to expand that quinoa and make it larger and nice, light, and fluffy. So once this happens, what you want to do is you actually want to reduce your heat a bit, kind of bring it down so that we don't cause it to be a boil and burn. We continue to stir every now and then. So our onions are definitely cooking up. You can hear that nice saute sound. And then if you see over here, Justin is working on the quinoa. Quinoa is beginning to get very nice and fluffy. It's beginning to build more of a texture and absorbing that moisture. Now, what it is that we want to add in, you can kind of see here that the onions are beginning to just about start to turn translucent. We still have that nice white texture. Along the edges have that little bit of yellow, which means it's time to add in our next ingredient, which is our pepper. Pepper is actually very fibrous, and it has a high water content too, like most vegetables. So we actually want to add it in before adding in our garlic in order to kind of cook off some of that excess water, but also allowing time for our onion to mix with the pepper and kind of increase the flavor a little bit more. So now you can kind of see, if you take a nice good peek here, our onions have started to turn translucent. And a lot of that water content and that moisture has baked off of the pepper. So this is the perfect time to add in our garlic. So once we have that in, we start to move it around, make sure that that garlic takes some time. Working with the pepper and working with the onion. And just creating a mix of different flavors. What you can also see too, Justin actually stopped putting heat on this pan with the quinoa because the quinoa is perfect. It's nice and light and fluffy. It doesn't look anything like what happened when we added the veggie stock to begin with. It's perfect texture, and it means that we're ready to move on to the next step. Next up, while Justin is holding down the fort with the stove, we move on to our primary source of protein, which is our canned black beans. All you gotta do is drain and rinse to get rid of some of the extra salt and add it to a nice 9x13 casserole dish. Now it's time to mix our ingredients together. So Justin's going to take our veggie mix and he's gonna add it to the casserole dish. Making sure he gets everything along the edge. Awesome. And then he's going to grab our quinoa that we spent so much time making, and we're going to add that in as well too. And once everything is added in nice and even, what he's going to do is he's going to mix everything all together so that it's evenly spread throughout. Last but not least, the very last ingredient we add is our enchilada sauce. So you just add it to the mix, and then once it's fully added in, all you gotta do is just mix it in together. If you'd like to garnish with some extra cheese, you can just sprinkle it on top. Add a little bit of extra flavor there, a little bit of extra carbohydrate and protein, and a little bit of fat, you know, keeps it tasty. And then from here, all we have to do is open the oven, stick it on in, and bake for 15 minutes. And now the enchilada bake is finally finished. So just let it sit and stay for just a little bit, just like Maverick, who needs to sit and stay. Perfect! And if you guys do choose in order to use this recipe, please make sure that you take a photo of it and then just add it to the comment and underneath